Real quick, if you're into what we talk about here, you'll probably love the free stuff we've got waiting for you at papernapkinwisdom.com. Tools, templates, all that good stuff. It's free. Just ask. You can even head over to social. The link's in the bio.
Welcome to Paper Napkin Wisdom, where we share pearls of wisdom shared by some of the world's top entrepreneurs, leaders, and difference makers. Here's your host, Govind Jayaraman.
Hi, I'm Govind Jayaraman, and this is Paper Napkin Wisdom, episode 252. What if the thing we've been told over and over in business, the customer is always right, isn't the whole truth? What if there's something even more important to focus on first? Today's conversation, you're going to hear from someone who has built, scaled, and successfully exited multiple businesses. Christine McDannell. She's an author, legacy-focused entrepreneur, and someone who has lived the founder's journey from burnout to breakthrough. Now imagine what becomes possible when you stop chasing toxic clients and start protecting the heartbeat of your company, your people. What Christine shares in this episode may shift the way you lead, grow, and think about loyalty. Not just from customers, but from your team. And if you're someone who wants to build something that outlasts you, this episode might just hold the key. As you listen, think about this. Where in your leadership are you prioritizing the wrong number one? And don't forget, when you hear something that sparks insight, scribble it down on a napkin and share it using the hashtag #PaperNapkinWisdom. Let's dive in. Christine McDannell, welcome to Paper Napkin Wisdom. I'm excited to have you here today.
I'm excited to come on. Thanks for having me.
Well, and you're coming at us from Dubai, so it's 8 hours time difference between Eastern time and you. So that's wonderful that we could make this work. I'm excited about that. And you may have actually been the first Dubai resident to actually record a Paper Napkin Wisdom while in Dubai. So that's even more exciting for me. So I love it. You shared a really interesting paper napkin with me. And it was, the customer is not always number one. The team is number one. Why did you share that with me?
Oh my gosh. And it wasn't anything I learned. I think I just, as you're doing things and as you're an entrepreneur, and I started my first company 21 years ago. This has been a long time ago. It's been a fun ride, of course. I've had a lot of employees, and I think it just came naturally. I just realized that I know there's that saying, the customer's always right, but that I just, time and time again, that wasn't the case. And I have multiple stories where it was my team was in the right, or my team needed to come first and I had my team's back. And a lot of times it even surprised them. Something would happen with the client and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to call and fire the client. And the team would say, no, it's okay. It's okay. And I'm like, it's not okay to be treated this way by a client. I'm going to fire them. And I would just pick up the phone and do it in front of them. And I think that built this loyalty, right? Of like, oh my gosh, Christine has my back, like when I work here. And I do. So to me, you got to put your team first over the clients. And again, it's a delicate balance, of course, and it's case by case, but I think overall your team and the team culture will be that much better if you do that.
So that's really interesting. It's also interesting that you say that you heard the saying, the customer's always right. So did you try adopting it that way first? Like, did you start off with that as being the default state and then quickly adjust? How did that work out for you?
Great question. I think just I might be a little bit of a rebel on my own even, right? Because I'm even thinking about like my first company, I was 23. It was a house cleaning company. And I was the one doing the cleaning in the beginning even. And I was the one dealing with clients and selling clients. And I even was telling them myself, like, okay, this isn't right. And so I think, again, you're right. It's just this mantra that everybody's heard a million times. But I just knew from day one. So it's a great question. Yeah, I just knew inherently that that's not necessarily true. The customer's not always going to be right. And you have to be okay pushing back because otherwise you'll get bullied. I have a fun, super quick story. Again, I was 23, so young, downtown San Diego, cleaning these condos. And this guy had a penthouse and he walks me through it. and I go to write him the quote on my brochure, and he shows me everything, and I write the little price. He takes my pen and he crosses the price out and he puts in a lower price. And then I took the pen back and I crossed his price out and I put my original price. And he laughed and he signed up and he was fine, right? But again, yeah, I don't know. And to this day, I still remember that happening. And I've told some colleagues that story. But yeah, I think not necessarily they're always right.
Yeah, I love that story because what changed about that customer relationship, even for standing up for what you believed was right in that situation? It sounds like he respected that.
You're exactly right. Because again, you're wealthy. You have, this is one of his many penthouses. This is the only one. And I think that's why he laughed, because they're not used to getting pushback, right? Usually they're getting their way all the time. And I think there was more respect automatically, right? Because if you're pushed, I think there's just going to be this weird dynamic. If they're already bullying you, it's just going to be a nightmare, right? So, and even in my firm, right, every single company I have a no a-hole rule, like every company I've owned. And it's been a great, great rule. And if they're just an a-hole, I'm sorry. We just politely say we're not a fit. We refer them to somebody else. I do it in a nice way, but I've done it for my spa. I've done it for every business I've owned. It's very rare. It's very rare, luckily. Far and few between, but it can happen.
So let's talk about this no a-hole rule, right? And I think a lot of people, especially when they're building business. I mean, hey, look, and for everybody listening, and listen to the intro, Christine now owns a business brokerage firm and represents entrepreneurs selling their businesses to other entrepreneurs who want to buy them. And so you've dealt with a lot of businesses, a lot of people, a lot of sales, a lot of different environments. Early on, when you're just building things, it can be hard to say no to business. It can be hard to, there's a certain amount of people right now that are looking around the world and saying there's chaos out there. This is a scary time. I can't afford not to take on this business. What would you say in that situation? How did you handle that?
Great question. And honestly, sometimes you can't afford to do it, right? Because what it does is it stresses you'll lose your team sometimes over. And I've seen it in other people's companies where they're dealing with these nightmare clients, and that employee is just like, I can't even, I'm out of here. They quit the job because of a nightmare client. I've seen it with friends' businesses. So you're losing team members, it's so much stress, you're spending so much time, energy, etc., on this nightmare client, even though you're like, oh, but we really need the money. We really need this client. Like I'm telling you. And I think, again, that's from years of experience. I'm sure I learned that lesson the hard way a long time ago. And then I finally learned, I guess I learned that what it did was it created a vacuum. So when I did get that courage of like, oh my God, I need, this is lost revenue. It's going to be so painful. But the second I would fire a nightmare client, this vacuum, this hole opened up, and then it sucked in like an amazing client to take their spot, like almost overnight. And the team, and again, you're having your teams back again, and they see that. They're like, okay, Christine has this no a-hole rule. So we know working in the company that if somebody's mean to us, rude, etc., then she's going to have her back and she's going to fire them. And they literally have had probably 3 different employees at least try to stop me. It's no, don't pick up the phone. No, don't fire them. It's okay. It's okay. I'm like, it's not okay. Like, you're being disrespected or they're being a nightmare client. So yeah, I think once you have that experience of when you do let them go and somebody fills that spot, like overnight, then it's a no-brainer. I'm like, okay, you just have that faith.
And then it's the other side of it too. I love this idea of the vacuum, right? There's a void that you create by purging the a-hole client, and then all of a sudden that vacuum and sucks somebody else into it, which is really amazing. But isn't it also true that those difficult clients take up more than their fair share of resources too, right? They're kind of terrorists in the business.
Whether you're into a quick gloss and go or full glam with bold colors, we all have that one product we can't live without. For me, it's the Thrive Cosmetics Liquid Lash Extensions Mascara. It gives my lashes unbelievable length and definition, like extensions in a tube. And with 6 shades that don't clump, smudge, or flake, it stays flawless all day. Plus, removal is a dream. It slides off with warm water, no tugging required. The best part? Thrive Causemetics is 100% vegan, cruelty-free, and made with clean, skin-loving ingredients. And when you shop, you're giving back. They've donated over $150 million in products and cash to support causes like cancer, homelessness, and domestic abuse. High-performance beauty that gives back? That's something I'll always stand behind. Try your new trusty favorites with an exclusive set for our listeners. New customers can get the Liquid Lash Extensions Mascara and a mini-sized Brilliant Eye Brightener at a special set price with free shipping at thrivecosmetics.com/beauty. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/beauty.
Aren't they?
Exactly. Yes, they are.
No, there's a lot of emotion. If you're not watching this, you should just watch Christine's face. She just threw her head back. It's like, oh my gosh. There is a personal story right there.
Probably multiple, and again, in different industries, because all my businesses have been in such different industries. So it's like each industry, I'm like, oh yeah, that one. Yeah, so much stress, sleepless nights, resources, payroll, employees all bent out of shape. Everybody's in a bad mood dealing with the client. You dread when they're named. Like I love, and I think about it all the time that, with my brokerage firm, the Magnolia firm, and we've been in business over 3 years, I get so excited. And my team knows I get excited when I see one of my, and I'm on the sell side. So one of my clients, I'm selling their business, when they text or when they call me or when we have a Zoom scheduled or I get to catch up. And sometimes I even reach out like, hey, it's been a bit since we've caught up. Like, can you talk today? I like seeing their name come in on the phone, but you don't want that client when you see their name come through on your phone where you're like, you don't want to answer it. You get this anxiety. So I'm so fortunate that's not been the case in years.
That's amazing. So let's also talk about what a great client does for your team, right? I think a lot of people don't understand how beneficial it is for your team to have great clients, right? Don't they develop more? They grow more. They're more loyal to you. There's a lot of benefit, isn't there?
For sure. The loyalty, of course. Also that, I want them to be excited to show up to work each day, right? So again, if you have nightmare clients, they're going to be dreading getting out of bed in the morning because they don't want to deal with these people. And so, yeah, everybody, it's just like, I'm telling you, it's a game changer. If you just, and I know it's so painful because I have, I have business. I have a lot of entrepreneurs as really close friends, and they say this client's 30% of our revenue. I can't get rid of them, and I'm like, oh man, that's hard position to be in.
So let's talk about that side. I think it's a side that a lot of people don't talk about, right? The impact of bad clients on your balance sheet from the perspective of selling your company, the business valuation, right? When companies are coming, so people come to you to buy businesses, people come to you to sell their businesses. And when you're looking at helping them, how does your wisdom fit into the bill?
Yeah, I mean, luckily I have yet, I'm very picky. And not only the no a-hole rule, but just in general, I'm picky about the listings I take on. These are A++ businesses. These are businesses been around a while, loyal team, incredible reputation, clean books. I mean, like the best businesses, right? Because again, it would be harder for me to sell something that, I'm not going to put lipstick on a pig. We've all heard that saying. I'm not going to do that with a business. Like I want A++ listing, to take to market. I don't do that many deals at a time. We usually have a waiting list. So I've not yet seen my seller, and I am in their business. I see it all, good, bad, ugly. I've not had clients where they're like, oh my God, Christine, this client's a nightmare. Like we have this big account and they're so difficult and they're such a nightmare. Like I haven't had that, thank God. So that example I don't have.
But it's interesting, right? You're saying that even for you to take on the listing, you're looking at people who've been around for a while, who have a great team. So a great team, because the team is number one. Like, do you ever see anybody have a great team that doesn't put their team number one?
Oh, I like that question. No, not a single time, because it's so funny. On that initial call, when they're calling me to think about selling their business, they stress, like, they've got to keep my team on board. They've got to keep my, the company intact. I don't want them ripping my company apart, and I don't want them letting my team go. Can you please promise me that? And what's funny is I was like, trust me, the buyer does not want your team leaving. Good news. Like, they want that's very rare. I haven't even seen that happen once yet, right? People buy the company for the team a lot of times. And so, but the second part of this is that I'm like, I am so glad you said that, because if you called me and said, I don't care about what they do with my company, I just want this many millions, I wouldn't take you on as a client. So, and that's the truth. Like, if somebody was just like, I don't give a crap, just they could fire people, they can dismantle my entire company, I just want this price, then I wouldn't take them as a client. So no, every single one, they care about their team. They're so good to their team. You should hear some of these bonuses recently where I'm even like, you're paying them this much? Like, they're giving their key people, one person's giving their entire team of 12, like, a really great bonus on the day of sale. Another one's giving a huge check to his COO that's staying. I'm like, wow, they're just so generous, which is amazing. I love that I have clients that are that generous and that care about their team, and their team has been there a long time because of that reason.
Yeah. And that's why people are interested in buying it, right? You even said that buyers are interested in buying that part of it. So if you're not putting your team number one, you're kind of missing the boat as a leader on what people value in the organization, aren't you?
For sure. And even my spa, I sold a wellness spa in San Diego that I built from scratch, 2012, sold in 2017. And to this day, the manager's still there. Like, the whole team, like, for years, I still go into that spa. I used to still go in there when I lived in San Diego, and just to see all the familiar, they didn't get rid of a single person. Those people stayed for years. And to say that the manager is still there in 2025, from when, she came to 10 years ago, I guess 2015 is when she joined me. Yeah. It's just, so it's not even just so much the founder, obviously the buyer needs to be a good person too, right? So it's just the company, the culture, the team, right? So that, they care about the rest of the team members, so they stay. The buyer is a great buyer. He doesn't change things. Don't fix what's not broken. When you buy a company, please don't do that. Don't go and make a bunch of changes if it's working.
Right. So in thinking about the team as number one, now, maybe somebody's going to be listening to this and saying, "Oh, well, okay, it works in a house cleaning, in a spa, in a services business." But do you think that works in all businesses that you've seen?
That the
Putting the
team's
team?
number one.
Yeah.
I even had a tech company. So you're talking about the software engineers and developers. They should be number one in the business. Yeah, give me an example of, and again, you're right. Most of my businesses have been service-based businesses. Are there industries that you think the team shouldn't be number one?
No, I mean I'm just saying you've had exposure in a lot of different businesses, and I think it's really important for people to hear that it is that important. It's cross sector. Every business that you've seen do well in an exit, in an entrance, like, because every exit's another entrance, right? So somebody else is opening the business when somebody else is exiting the business, and truly, you're saying that the companies that put the team number one are the ones that do the best, right?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Each time I'm thinking of every single example in my head. I think it's a big, big deal. And then myself included, again, I get especially when I sell a company, exit one of my own, I get all this credit, and it feels odd and I just have to keep reiterating. I'm like, it's not just me, it's my team. Like, there's no way none of this would happen. Wellness spa, 37 employees, 2 locations. It's 37 amazing women, but Christine keeps getting all the credit. So I kind of have to say, no, it's them. And it's so funny. Even with my very first company, Cleanology, which again was just me. In the beginning, I hired a couple people. I would always say we. Anytime, all these years, when I talk about my companies, I say, oh, we this, we did that. And they're like, oh, you have a business partner. And I go, no, it's just me. They're like, why are you saying we? And I'm like, me and my team. Like, it's not me. And so just by nature, every time I would say we, people would be like, oh, they would assume a business partner, because that's how would just naturally talk. It's not me. It's not mine. It's ours.
Yeah. And acting that way is really important. I think it's also really important for people to understand that when you have a key employee, right, and you've had key employees in different sectors and different business, and you've represented your clients in different businesses and different sectors, is it easier to get a new client or another key employee? Like,
Oh
what's
gosh,
easier?
clients. That's the other reason why you don't like the cost of turning over a team is not fun. And on the napkin, I was on the fence about writing my other go-to saying, which people have heard on a podcast. I usually say on every podcast, hire slow and fire fast. So when you're hiring, you need to take your time to get that perfect team member that's going to fit into your organization. And if you have a nightmare, you have to fire them fast. And I've made that mistake where I didn't. I waited months and it caused massive issues. So I think finding a new client, to be honest, versus an incredible team member. I think an incredible team member is very hard to come by, and especially when the unemployment rate is low. And again, I've been in a 20-year, I've been when the unemployment rate was like 14%, and I've been in it when it was 2%, and there's nobody available, or you're scraping the bottom. So I've seen both sides, and I just feel like taking the time to hire a great team member is harder than finding a client.
Yeah. And I think that's true in every economy. So so is there ever a time when the customer isn't right in that situation? Like, have you been in those situations where a customer isn't an a-hole, and your team is wrong? How do you handle that? Because that happens too, right?
When the team is like, oh, the client was in the right, but the team was kind of over.
Yeah. How do you handle
First
those
thing we need to
situations?
fire this client. Yeah, I don't know. Again, my team is so incredible when they should even speak up. They don't. And I'm kind of like, guys, they shouldn't treat you that way. Like, let me step in and talk with the client. And they're just hesitant. Yeah, I can't think of a time where the team is in the wrong.
And this is where I'm sort of going. I think our teams will tolerate a lot,
Yeah,
right?
I know.
So if you have
Too
a
much.
great team, they'll just take on the burden, and it's our job to have their back, isn't it?
Without a doubt, you're right. And so, yeah, I think there was one, which some of my stories are probably not podcast rated, but I did have one therapist that said inappropriate, this is in the wellness spa, said not appropriate things during the consultation with another female. It was a female, it was another female, and didn't realize it because this is just the way she talked. And said a little too much to this lady. And I read the Yelp review and I'm like, my mouth hits the ground. I was like, oh my God, my therapist said this stuff. So and again, it's like probably too much to say on the podcast, but that's how bad it was. And so I go to the team member. So in this case, and the lady gave us 2 stars, to be honest. She should have said 1 out of 5. She gave us 2 because everything else was great. It was just the vocabulary that my therapist used. And, take my therapist in the room, and I was like, read the review, and I'm like, hey, like, you cannot say these kinds of words to a client ever, like out of bounds. And we kind of giggled a little bit. Again, I didn't write her up. It was just like, don't do this again. So there's a great example.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it's not to say that your team doesn't need coaching is really where you're saying, right? Sometimes your team will need a little coaching.
That's true.
Yeah. Especially when it's going to turn into a X-rated Yelp review.
Yeah. With asterisks. There's even the asterisks. The lady couldn't even write the words. That's how bad it was.
That's great. So let's I'm curious, I guess, at Magnolia, do clients, I mean, I know I've done this when looking at a business, but is it normal that people do reviews of like a client review versus a team review? I know there's always a team review 100% of the time. So this is where, again, showing where people put value. People put value in a team, but people don't always look at your clients, do they?
Like reviewing client or like going through the list, cleaning it up, getting rid of
No,
bad
no.
client.
Like prior to an acquisition, do people? I know whenever I've looked at an acquisition, I really look at the team. I look at the company. I might look at the big clients, but I won't look at all the clients. So it's another indication of where people put their value, and I've never really thought about it that way until you brought it up. People do put a lot of value on the team, but am I wrong in making that assumption?
No, you're right. And keep in mind on an acquisition, you're not going to get the client list anyways until the day of close because the value is there, right? If it's big client names, then of course we can say those. Oh, Pepsi is their client, Disney is their client. But you won't even see the client list. So it'd be hard to evaluate the client list. But again, the team, and then even the team, you can't talk with a lot of the team. You can kind of speak with just a couple key members maybe before actually closing on the deal.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So let's talk about your journey. You went from a cleaning business, right, to spas, and I know you've spent some time in tech as well, right?
Yes.
Well,
And
how
some
did you
few
make?
businesses in between.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're the main ones.
So how did you talk about how you learned to apply this differently in different places? I mean, one time you're scratching out a price, but I'm sure wasn't all scratching out a price on a brochure as you learn to manage your clients later on in other businesses, right?
Yeah, no, and for sure. And again, we were so lucky, even in the spa. I mean, I could count on 5 years of owning the spa on one hand, how many clients we'd have to say, hey, we're not a fit because they were just difficult clients, like less than five, which is great, right? In a 5 year
Mhm.
run. So we didn't, there wasn't a lot of times that I would come across that as far as issues in, any of the businesses. Yeah, team stellar and all of them. Partners different. Partnerships are hard, so that's a whole nother. I've had a couple partnerships in all the ventures I've had in the years, and a couple of them, and those were difficult, and it wasn't necessarily their fault. It's just I operate in a very specific way that's hard to operate alongside of. I'm moving fast, you got to keep up, like we're moving, and so my team works great with I work great with teams, but partners is probably a different story. But I'm still
That's
friends with all of them at least.
yeah. Well, you're a friendly person, so that works. And do you find it harder to do this? So now you operate in a very remote way from your team, right? We said off the top, you're 8 hours ahead of where I am on the East Coast. So, and you're operating from that kind of distance. Do you find it hard to put the team first when you're far away?
Not one bit. And Lauren's been with me through multiple companies for 7 years now. And I've only see her once a year at most. And even when we both lived in California, she was in LA and I was in San Diego, and we'd still maybe see each other. It was just all done through Zoom, phone. I think you can still keep an amazing team culture that way. It doesn't have to be in person. And I've had the in-person teams for years, and now I've had remote. And this was pre-COVID even. So my team, everybody was remote pre-COVID even. So when COVID happened, it didn't shift anything for us at least. And then being on this other side of the world, it's not, yeah, it's just business as usual.
Yeah, and having your team number one probably makes it easier. Like if you're really thinking about it, be what makes the other thing easier, which really is strategy, right? Strategy is the lead pin that makes other pins fall down. And you putting your team number one has probably permitted you to live in different places and have the freedom from the business that we all crave, correct?
Definitely. And I was worried to tell them I was moving to Dubai. I remember that. I was hesitant because I'm like, oh God, they're gonna be like, what is she doing? Like, or maybe feel like they'd have more work, or the time difference would disrupt the entire company. But no, they were actually genuinely happy for me. They were so excited because I was worried to tell them. I moved here about over a year ago, last March. Yeah, and they were so happy for me. So that was a relief. And I had tested living here. So I failed to mention that because again, most, my clients are even on the West Coast. So you're talking an 11-hour difference, but when the time changes, it's a 12-hour difference, which is like the worst time difference you could have, right? but
Right.
it's easy math. So I tested living here 6 weeks and then another separate 6 weeks. So I had 12 weeks of testing living here before I moved here permanently. And that was because of the time, just to make sure I can manage working on the other side of the world on an opposite time zone. And yeah, I work nights now. So it's, you're talking to somebody that used to be in bed by 9:30, 10 p.m., up by 6 a.m. Now it's, up at 11, taking meetings till about 2 a.m., sometimes 3. Deals don't sleep. So I'll take a meeting anytime, any day. Deals don't sleep.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it really just comes down to putting your team number one has facilitated this move for you. Because I think we, as entrepreneurs, we want three things. We want freedom in the business to work on the things we want to do, freedom because of the business, right? That we can live a lifestyle that might be appropriate based on what we're doing, and freedom from the business to live and have a life outside of the business. And I think you can't have any of those things if you don't put the team number one, can you?
Love that you just said that. So that's my I know everybody has a different definition of success because it means different things to different people. But for me, for years I've said it's literally freedom. So it's the freedom to do what I want, when I want, with whomever I want, wherever I want. And that's genuinely what I'm doing. I get to work with amazing team, amazing clients. I get to work from the other side of the world. Just all this freedom to me is way more important than a lot of money. I would pick freedom any day of the week. And that's
Right.
my definition of success, me personally.
Yeah, no, I saw you light up when we talked about that. So speaking of that, and a shout out to this year we've been ending every episode with a shout out, and the reason why this came about was John Rulin, a great friend of the show, in his appearance 11 years ago, gave us a great napkin, which was what you appreciates. And what we were saying was when you appreciate something in the world, it appreciates in value and gives more to everything around it. And it was a great and generous thing. When he suddenly passed away in November of the last year, we decided to pay it forward and ask everybody to share some appreciation in the world at the end of each episode. So with that in mind, Christine, is there someone you'd like to shout out and share some appreciation with?
Yeah, huge appreciation. Yeah, I have one. Henry Evans, who has been my mentor and a personal friend for 15 years at least now, and met him he led a marketing group in San Diego, an in-person one. And then he started Mastermind pretty, around that time. So yeah, about 15 years ago. And to this day, that Mastermind is still, running with the same crew. He had to step down from it, unfortunately, but we kept it going. And Henry was just always there for me. Every month, helping me with my businesses, was just almost like a big brother to me all those years. And there's all these mantras and quotes and things I've learned where I'm like, oh, I learned that from Henry, or, oh, that was Henry's quote. Just these business things that I think of from time to time. And yeah, we're great friends. He's in San Diego. So a shout out to Henry Evans, and just huge gratitude, because I wouldn't be here, if it wasn't the stuff I've learned from him, especially when it comes to sales and marketing.
Thank you, Christine. Thanks for joining me.
Yes, thanks for having me on. This was fun.
It was. What a powerful conversation with Christine McDannell. It's easy to get swept up in the old business mantra that the customer is always right. But as Christine reminded us, that belief can quietly erode your culture, your team's trust, and your long-term success. Your team comes first, always. The customer is not always number one. Your team is number one. Culture is built through the boundaries. Protecting your team sometimes means letting a customer go. Fire clients who harm your people. One bold decision can save your business and your soul. Psychological safety fuels performance. Leadership is about creating spaces where people can thrive. Build with legacy in mind. A true leader builds something that lives on, with or without them. Christine's napkin might be controversial for some, but that's often where the truth lives, in bold, uncomfortable shifts that challenge the status quo. If we want to create something lasting, it starts with how we treat the people building it alongside us. If this episode resonated with you, please take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And here's my challenge to you. Grab a napkin, write down your biggest insight from today's episode. Post a photo of it with the hashtag Paper Napkin Wisdom, because wisdom shared is wisdom amplified, and the smallest ideas, when acted on, can lead to the biggest results. Until next time, keep going and keep growing. Make it a great day.